Eric, something I want to point out to you, and I actually saw this over on Twitter. One of my favorite follows is Andrew Dice Clay, and he posted something very interesting he'd found online. Every now and again, you see guys post things to Facebook Marketplace, and there's a lot of former WWE and WCW personnel who will list things for sale there or just show off their personal collections. One of those was the former timekeeper and stage manager for WWE, Mark Yeaton. Did you ever meet Mark? Do you remember Mark?
Yeah.
He was the guy, for fans who don't know, whenever Stone Cold's calling for a beer, he was the guy pitching Steve the beer all those years. Do I have that right?
Yep. Hey, Mark's a fun guy. He's a great guy. Always smiling, always laughing.
Well, he posted something that I wanted to share with you. It's a WCW television format from the year 2000, and it's got notes that are sort of handwritten here. And we believe that this is your handwriting. That's the way it's framed or positioned. So I wanted to share this with you because it is an online conversation in certain circles, but one I know that probably didn't land on your radar. But if you see here, we've got in the notes where we're going through this whole silly situation where David Flair was supposedly going to kidnap his stepmother, Beth. And in the notes, you wrote, "Gone too far. Going to house, now kidnapping his family. Should he call the cops and tell them my son kidnapped his stepmother?" I don't know if you remember this, but I think this would have been during the 3 months where you were, quote unquote, overseeing Vince Russo in WCW. How often did you have notes like this?
I don't even know if those are my notes. It's definitely not my handwriting. If you've ever seen my handwriting, I wouldn't have to say anything more. So that's definitely not my handwriting. Now, during that brief period of time when Fusion Media Ventures, myself and Fusion Media Ventures were in the process of acquiring, once we kind of got through the deal points and the deal was really in the process of due diligence and finalizing, there was a period of time when I stepped in discreetly. Like, I didn't go to the office, I didn't set up any creative meetings, but I connected with Ed Ferrara, maybe Terry Taylor was a part of that, but there was one or two people that I communicated. I said, okay, tell me what you guys have got going on. And really my only goal was that they didn't make anything worse than it already was. There was a strong concern that because of the direction Russo was taking, I just didn't want to have to fix any, I didn't want to have to repair any more damage than was necessary. So I kind of wanted to see where creative was going in the interim as we were getting ready to take over the company. Brad Siegel agreed to that. It was part of my deal. So Brad Siegel agreed to that. No, I take that back. I take that back. This would have been prior to the acquisition. What was the date? Do you remember?
When you sold?
No, when supposedly this document came out or was produced.
I mean, I think it would have been,
but what month was it?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I believe April, May, June is, so there you go. May 29th, 2000.
No, those weren't my notes. And that was before I was working discreetly. So I would have been involved at that time, but I would have been communicating directly with Russo or whomever. So is it possible that I made that comment in a creative meeting or a phone call and somebody else wrote it down and therefore it shows up on a format as my notes? I guess that's possible, but those are definitely not my notes. And I don't remember those notes in particular. Let me see what else you got here. Yeah, I can't tell from looking at this, but during this period of time, I was working face to face with Russo. So if I would have made notes on a format, they would have been in my handwriting, and those were not my notes. That was not my handwriting. So your guess is as good as mine.
Hey, I do want to ask you, do you disagree with the sentiment? I mean, I know that sometimes we have to suspend our disbelief in wrestling, but the whole idea of kidnapping and stuff like that, and you do some silly stuff every now and again in WCW, not necessarily you, but we buried Hulk Hogan in the desert. And once upon a time we pushed the giant off the roof. And there are some big, like, okay, we've got to suspend our disbelief. I mean, they blew up a boat with a little person on it in the Vader Sid era. So,
well, an Undertaker rises from the dead after he's been buried.
There you go. There you go. It's not unique. I appreciate you pointing that out. It's not unique to WCW. There's just some silliness in wrestling every now and again. Does that take you out of it? Because as a fan, I have to admit, I had a ton of respect for the work that Mark Calloway did, but the Undertaker character to me was, hey, I'm kind of an undead zombie who can summon lightning. All of my friends loved it, but I was like, it's a little hokey for me. And I never really loved it, but I could appreciate bell to bell and the character work and the commitment. And like, he did something no one else could do. So nothing but respect for him, but the character itself was just kind of, I don't know. This is a little far out there for me. Did that ever happen for you in WCW where you're like, if you guys think so, but I don't like this?
Oh yeah, a lot. And some of it you just learn by experience, like kidnapping as a theme, as a premise for a wrestling show. Nobody's buying that shit. It's too far. There's an art to suspending disbelief. It's not as easy as it is to listen to it and think you understand it. Really performing, especially in professional wrestling, because it's so much harder. Like Lori and I are watching a new series on Netflix called The Diplomat. I don't know if you've seen it. Highly recommend it. The writing is phenomenal. So is the acting, but the writing is unbelievable. But in a drama series like that, you've got the ability and the budget to hire the best writers. You're hiring the best actors and actresses. You're hiring the best directors to artificially create emotion that allows the viewer to suspend the disbelief. It gives them permission because it's being executed so perfectly and flawlessly and so believably that you give yourself permission just to get sucked in and enjoy the story. Just go for the ride. That's when it's really, really good. Well, wrestling is a lot harder to achieve that love, that mental state of permission in terms of believability, because you don't have the tools to work with. And the environment you're working in is already an over-the-top kind of hokey. When I say hokey, that's not the right word. It's an over-the-top gregarious presentation from the get-go, which makes it a little more difficult to suspend disbelief. You have fewer devices to use to get that audience in that state of mind, which is kind of like hypnotizing them in a way, but you're hypnotizing them with narrative or action or drama on the screen, right? So wrestling, I've seen other people try, kidnapping type angles in the past. People will talk about it after the fact because it's different, it's unique, not used to seeing it. So that you'll get chatter afterwards, but it's not good chatter. It just doesn't work. There's certain things that just don't work in wrestling. And whether I've done them or I've seen other people do them, I don't want to do them again. So a lot of times people would come up with ideas, and it's not that I necessarily had tried it before and it didn't work, but I've watched a lot of other producers and promoters throughout my 35 years in the business. And you build up a little bit of a database in terms of what works and what doesn't work. And it makes it easy to kind of make notes like that when somebody's suggesting something that you've seen fail time and time and time again.
I do want to ask you, when it comes to trying to edit Russo, because we've acknowledged that's not your handwriting, that's not your note, but I'm sure you did have notes. What were the biggest problems you had week to week with trying to rein him in? I ask because I know he's got an incredible reputation for giving something for everybody. And that was the positive that we heard on the WWE side of things, is everyone had a story. It wasn't just the top guys or the top two or three angles. Like everything had some sort of a purpose. So I'm sure WCW was excited about that, but Russo shared his experience with Cornette was often that Russo didn't put much thought into how can we execute this in actuality. Like, hey, it sounds good on paper and creatively that makes sense, but from a physicality standpoint, can we really actually deliver on that idea? And Cornette acted like that was a real challenge for Russo. He cited specifically where they wanted to have a TNA brawl through the Impact Zone, but the way Russo had laid it out, it would have made it nearly impossible to shoot and produce. Were those the type frustrations that you had with Russo, or was it something different?
Similar but different. Here is my issue with Russo. Russo could pitch you an idea, even if it was a lukewarm idea. It was a 6 on a scale of 1 to 10, 5.5. But he would pitch it with so much passion and conviction that even though in your mind you're going, this is at best, he was charming enough and passionate enough that he could get you to go further with an idea than you might normally go. I would listen to some of his ideas more than I typically would, just because of his passion for it. But once you got through the passion, like all of his bro New York bullshit, once you got through that, if you asked him one question, where does it go from here? What happens next week? What's the arc look like? It was like you were asking him to cure cancer. It would stump him. It would it was kind of amazing. And then once I realized it, Hulk was the first one to point it out to me. So I didn't notice it right away. But if you ever wanted to shut Vince Russo down, all you had to do was say, Vince, this sounds really great. What do we do next week? Because he never thought about next week. He never really understood episodic television. He booked 1 week at a time, and whatever got him excited, whatever was, and once he wrapped his head around it and he felt like he was going to go out and pitch it, that's all he needed. Next week, we'll figure it out next week. Week after, whatever. I got it. He didn't understand storytelling. He talks a lot about it. Everybody had a story, but the story sucked. It's the same thing that I hear from, internet wrestling community fans about that. And Dave Meltzer, there's so many stories in AEW, it's hard to keep track of. Are you fucking kidding me? Those aren't stories. They don't qualify as stories. There's no structure to them. There's no journey to them. Just because you come up and you book shit every single week for the same 2 people over a course of 6 weeks doesn't mean you're telling a story. You're just booking matches. And Russo was more guilty of that than anybody that I've ever worked with in creative. He just didn't understand the concept of, as probably in Jim Cornette's example, yeah, it's great to come up with a good idea on a piece of paper. It sounds really good when you're pitching it in a room, but you have to execute it. And
right.
How? And part of that execution is what happens next week or next month. Where does it go? And if you don't have the answer, where does this story go after we shoot this really cool angle? If you don't have a clear picture for that you can explain with confidence, all you're doing is pitching angles. And that's what everybody does. Everybody's pitching angles. Nobody's pitching stories.
Man, what a line. Everybody's pitching angles. Nobody's pitching stories. I think we're going to have to remember that one. There's your quote for the week, boys and girls, if you get paid to recap this show. Hey, I do want to ask you, you worked with Russo not once, but twice. You worked with him a little bit in WCW and then years later in TNA. Had anything changed in Russo's game? Had his perspective or his approach at all changed, or was he pretty much the same guy both times?
He was more cautious in TNA. I think he understood. First of all, he knew me better, and he knew where he stood with me. And don't get me wrong by that. I got along with him okay. I told Dixie when we first started talking about it, because she was worried about me and Russo. I said, I don't like him and I don't trust him. I don't have to like him. I mean, it's true. I don't have to. I work with a lot of people. I don't necessarily, well, I shouldn't say I work with a lot. I have worked with a lot of people that I didn't necessarily like. There weren't people that I go hang out with in my free time. They weren't people that I would invite over to my house to grill steaks on the weekend. But I could work with them because I respected their abilities and the way they handled themselves. So I don't have to like people to work with them, but I do have to trust them. And I made it clear that I didn't trust Vince Russo and never would. So that's how I went into the relationship. And Russo knew that. He knew I didn't trust him. I didn't hold it against him. I took him out to lunch a lot. He never paid. I always did, by the way. If you don't believe me, ask Matt Conway, because he was always there, which was fine. But I didn't trust him. And he knew I didn't trust him, so he didn't even try to fuck with me. He didn't try. Previously, he did. And every once in a while, if it was in a production meeting, a creative meeting, he'd start to try to bow up a little bit because he thought maybe I wouldn't shut him down in a creative meeting in a room full of people, including Dixie Carter. And he found out that wasn't the case. It didn't really matter if we were alone or if there were 20 people in the room. My reaction is pretty much going to be the same. So he figured that out, and we got along fine. I mean, it was a working relationship, but I kept a much closer eye on him. I gave him no benefit of the doubt because I didn't trust him. Previously in WCW, I'd give him the benefit of the doubt. David Arquette's a perfect example. Wasn't excited about it. I understood the reason for it. Synergy, Time Warner, Warner Brothers movies, WCW, kind of made sense on paper. And I understood the pressure that was also coming from Warner Brothers at the time to make sure that there was good synergy. But the David Arquette thing in the show and the way it was laid out, personally, but I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Once I got the TNA, there was no more benefit of the doubt. Zero. So that was the only difference.
SaveWithConrad.com.
My name's Daryl. Came from Massachusetts and I moved to Wisconsin. And there's a lot of people that might be asking, why go with Conrad? Why go with Supreme Lending? And let me tell you something, brother. I think about the credentials, the tag team partner that I'd be working with. First of all, we got the podfather himself, Conrad. How can you go wrong with that? And then also go on to SaveWithEric.com, which, you know, who else could have kicked Vince's ass for 83 consecutive weeks? You can't beat that duo right there. But they did bring a secret weapon, and I didn't realize this because this was not advertised. I worked closely with Larry the Axe Thompson. And let me tell you, with all the stress with moving across the country with a large family that I have, it was reassuring to know that I had the enforcer at my back, handling questions from the other side of sellers, the other side with trying to find the right prices. He took care of all that. All I had to do was keep my eye on the prize and make it there to Wisconsin. They were absolutely fantastic. They checked in on me, especially Francis, very patient with me. I don't go through this process all the time, so I trusted the experts. I was able to call them. They called me if they had questions, and it felt like it was a personal arrangement. There was even a point in which, from the seller side, they wanted something else that wasn't part of the norm. Francis straight up told me, hey, we're loyal to you. We'll do whatever you want to do, and we'll make sure that you guys are taken care of. They came through. I made it to the dream. I'm the champion of my own destiny here. They were able to help pave the way for me and my family. I couldn't be more happy with the results. I went from having less than an acre to now 20 acres worth of land. They made that dream a reality. I'm Daryl, and I'm living in Friendship, Wisconsin, in my dream home, thanks to SaveWithConrad.com.
NMLS number 21298, equal housing lender. SaveWithConrad.com.